Welcome to Chok Muay Chats episode 40. I'm Joe Comerford, content creator, commentator, ex-fighter, right here bringing you conversations about Muay Thai. Today's guest is Matt Lucas, who has just written a new book, Muay Thai, the complete insider's guide to training, fighting, and business. So, welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Joe. How are you doing today?
I am very good. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm okay.
And, well, let's get into the book straight away. All right, so can you tell us a little bit about who Matt Lucas is?
So I have been living out here in Thailand for about 10 years. I'm a former fighter. I might still fight. You saw Pamorn recently, right?
Yep.
Pamorn Marti has been chatting up a little bit, and I think he wants a little bit of Matt Lucas beat down. But I fought out here a decent amount. I fought in the States a decent amount. I moved out here to Thailand 10 years ago. I've been in the Muay Thai industry from the get-go as a commentator, foreign liaison, and most recently the director of PR at Fairtex. Then, of course, I've done other freelance projects, WBC, cornered athletes at ONE, RWS, Raja Demnan, Max, along with fighting these places. So what I've done is I've collected all of my experience plus other people's experiences into a guide, basically. I wanted it to be very complete, very thorough. It took me about a year and a half, 2 years to write, and then plus all my experience as well. So it's basically a decade-long project that has come out.
Now, you had an original guide that you had as a hard copy, but there was an unfortunate event, and then you wanted to update it, correct?
Mm-hmm. So I wrote on fighting in Thailand maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and that I did very quick. I was transitioning from FA Group to Fairtex, and I decided, I'm just going to bang this out. This one, I was a lot more thorough with it, did a lot more research. Just the I'm Fighting in Thailand book is about 150 pages. This is 450. Plus, I just did a lot more diligence. I spent 2 or 3 hours every day for about 2 years working on this.
And of course, now there's a lot of resources online for people to have a look at in terms of information about Muay Thai, information about coming to Thailand. There's, as we both know, and we've seen over the last couple of years that Muay Thai is growing in popularity, and especially in the online space with people selling digital products. Do you think was there a gap in knowledge or resources for foreigners wanting to get into Muay Thai? And do you think this closes that gap a little bit better or bridges the gap?
Yeah, so I think that there's a couple of things. A book is a different feeling than a digital copy of something. I feel people's ways of sort of retaining information is going to be different from reading a physical book versus watching an Instagram video, which is different from YouTube and these different avenues. So I think there's that difference. I think a lot of what has been produced lately is pretty shallow, there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's a real argument to be made about building the base out, but there's not a lot of depth. And this is something that I feel is more depthful. It is not necessarily for people that are on Muay Thai holidays. It's not for people that are just coming over for the first time. This is for someone that is maybe come out here a few times, wants to really invest in their career, or a gym owner that wants to really have a solid foundation behind them of what they're teaching, what they're passing on to their students, a lot more culture and just solid information. Like I have the SAT rules in the book itself, translated from Thai. So that is not something a lot of people are familiar with. For those unfamiliar, the SAT, Sports Authority of Thailand, is a ruling body for the sport based out here in Thailand.
Mm. Yeah, that's one of the great things about the book is that you have a lot of the Pasa Muay or the Muay Thai language in the book. So, you know, people can actually look into that and understand what's happening, because you and I both know that a lot of the access to streams and stuff is often in Thai, and people are sort of going, oh, what's going on? So, you know, I would definitely suggest get your hands on a copy in terms of learning some of the valuable words. I mean, you do that a lot in your content, but there's a lot explaining the cultural significance of the words as well. So I think that's really important. Now, in terms of subjects in the book, can you give us a quick breakdown of what's actually in the book, section by section, like a quick breakdown of the content?
Yeah, so it's divided into 3 sections: training, fighting, and business.
Mm-hmm.
So the training goes over, you know, your basic day-to-day life at a Muay Thai gym, how to pick a gym, locations for gyms, the daily routine, how to structure strength and conditioning, nutrition, etc. Plus real-life examples from different athletes like Danny Rodriguez, Kendu Irving, Junior Fairtex, a host of different people that have had different experiences with the training. And then the next section is fighting, which goes over locations, promotions, purse sizes, the tactics, of course, the different styles. So, and then it rounds out with the business side of things, specifically how to build leads for gyms, and then how to retain students, how to build out seminars if that's something you're interested in, and then social media for both promotions and gyms and athletes. So is how to structure the business and how to market it as well.
Now, just going back to that thought about the personal stories, because there's a lot of personal stories about athletes highlighted in the book. What stood out to you from the stories of people like Willie Whipple, Danny Rodriguez, Matthias Casarino, and others? I'd say, what's the one thing that brings them together, and maybe something that separates these individuals?
I think what brings them together is their commitment to the sport. Mm-hmm. All these people that I've interviewed have been out here in Thailand for a number of years. So it is not new people. It is not people on holiday or people that will disappear. Mm-hmm. A lot of the people that I interviewed, like Willie Whipple, I first interviewed him on Fighting in Thailand 5-6 years ago, and then I updated it. So when I interviewed him the first time, I was pretty sure he'd be here in 5 or 6 years, and that bet has paid off. So I think that commitment is valid for all the people in the book. What differentiates them is their different experiences, of course. You know, Mateus, for instance, his career was a lot more driven to the stadium side of things.
Yep.
He was able to do that, though, because he had funding from parents and other business stuff. So he was able to go into the lower purse size shows and have that experience, which is a lot different than, say, Kendu Irving, who came out here and fought a couple of times on Fairtex Fight and was picked up and pushed into, or, you know, guided, push, whatever, into the entertainment ONE Championship route, which is a lot more money, but has its own pros and cons. Then you have someone like Danny Rodriguez, who is a bit of a savant, and he's so good. You know, he's only lost once to Yadwicha, and that was a contested fight.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you look at the discussion amongst the fans, there was a lot of controversy about the decision of that fight. So, you know, interesting on that one. Yeah, I remember in the Thai commentary, they called him the Mayweather of Muay Thai. You know, not just because of his skin color, but also because the fact that he was undefeated for so long, you know, and that he had that evasive but aggressive style. Yeah.
He's done very, very well for himself, and he's not fighting tomato cans.
Yep.
You know, he's fighting some of the very best athletes, especially in RWS. Guys like Litawada, Yadwicha, the Sitsong Pinong guys, they're very, very good. You know, in traditional Muay Thai stadium style, you cannot get better.
Do you think these case studies or personal profiles that you put in the book are a good way for other athletes to mirror themselves off their experiences and perhaps build their own pathways? Because I know you do give information on how to, you know, travel along with your career, but do you think these personal profiles certainly add value to for new athletes coming in?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that has probably helped the most with the growth of Muay Thai is young athletes being able to see older athletes and how they developed. So that is not something that happened with me when I first came out. You know, there were not a lot of Americans that came out to Thailand in 2007. But even for people like you, you know, you were able to see Andrew Parnham, you know, your original coach, come out to Thailand, what he did, his path. So, you might not have been like, I'm going to do the same thing. You were able to see this is a possibility.
Yep.
This is at least one way. Maybe it's not my way, but it is a way for me to get towards or where I want to go.
Yeah, I think it's certainly good to have inspiration from different people, you know, and that kind of is able to muster up the passion to go different routes. Now, speaking about going different routes, one of the questions I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, and we were talking about sponsored athletes, and nowadays, a lot of gyms, especially down in Phuket, don't really want to take on sponsored athletes. I mean, back in maybe, say, 2012 to, say, 2016, it was probably a bit more financially viable to do it. But now, with Muay Thai expanding, and I'd say that just a personal gripe with athletes these days, I don't think they're as committed to the sport as they once were. Do you think... No, that's not my question. My question is, what advice would you give to athletes trying to get sponsored at a gym over here in Thailand? Because I would say that the sponsorships are probably starting to diminish a little bit.
I think that they are not necessarily diminishing. I think that it's a business. And if you understand it as a business, then you understand the potentials. What most athletes are, in my experience, what most athletes are doing wrong is they're not understanding that it's a business. And the first, you know, sponsorship relationship they have is actually their gym back home. So your gym in Australia, your gym in America, that is going to be your first sponsorship because your coach, the gym owner, is putting discretionary time and effort into you, getting you ready for fights, getting you, you know, the information you need, the structure, the planning. This is all stuff that usually the gym owner is doing for free. And so the athlete needs to understand they're investing in you, and so they want some sort of payoff. Yeah, maybe they're doing it from the bottom of their heart, but also they in some way want some sort of payoff. It might just be emotional of like, thank you. but it might be something else. And I think a lot of athletes don't understand that, so they're bringing the same mindset out here. And what is happening is a lot of the gyms understand now that they have enough customers, and customers are easy to deal with. They make you more money than the fighters. The fighters are hard work. They require so much, and their profit or return is not as high. So it's like, why should I support you?
What do you think sponsors look for when they're looking for somebody to back?
Gratitude, I think, is like the first and foremost. Like, just simple thank you. You know, hey, what you're doing means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. That sort of sentence goes a long way with anyone. The second thing is material or advertising value. Fighters work as brand ambassadors for their gyms. So most people are looking at the fighters as sort of proof of a system. So you look at the athlete and you say, oh, that athlete is good, therefore this gym is good. And so when the athlete promotes a gym, the gym will in turn reinvest in the athlete more. That is, if the business relationship side of things is good.
So do you think now sponsorship is mostly, I'm talking about athletes, is it mostly about metrics and what they can bring back for the gym in towards of audience metrics? Or do you think being a good enough athlete is enough? Or do you think it has to work both, a balance of that relationship between bringing viewership to the product or being a good enough athlete?
I think it's a balance of both. Some locations, one side is more important than the other. So, for instance, at Fairtex, they are not necessarily super concerned with your social media metrics. Like Shir Cohen, for example, a very, very good Israeli athlete and a contender for the ONE Championship title. She has a very small following, but as an athlete, she's very, very good. Fairtex has enough income coming in from equipment sales. They don't really need the athletes to have larger social media followings. However, other gyms need that or want that. You know, somewhere like Revolution in Phuket might be a little bit more interested in that. Other gyms are looking more to use the athlete as a direct marketing tool for the gym.
And do you think there's a difference between male and female fighters when it comes to sponsorship opportunities these days?
I'm a little divided on that. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure.
Yep.
I think that in my experience, there's a lot of pros and cons to both. You know, women are sort of underrepresented. So, and as a marketing aspect of things, women are very easy to market. Like, they generally already know how to pose, how to look good for the camera. Because it's primarily men in the sport, it's like 80 to 90% men on social media, at least. Having women is good because they draw the eye a bit more. It's a bit more unique. On the downside, you do get creepers and stuff. On the side of, but also the women's opportunities are maybe not, they're higher than they have ever been before. They're not the same as the men. So the men, if you are a good male fighter, your ceiling is higher. But because there are more men, it's actually more difficult to be a standout man. So a man with 30, 40 fights is not going to be as noticeable as a woman with 30 to 40 fights just because of population size.
Yep. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And I think one of the speaking about that, one of the areas that you really cover in the book is pathways for fighters. And I mean, you talk about now how there's more opportunity than ever in Muay Thai, especially if you know how to navigate it. Now, so realistically, what actual pathways exist for fighters in 2025, not internationally, but here in Thailand, and what career routes can people take, whether Thai or foreign? I mean, it's a very loaded question, but just try and give us a quick summary.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different ways you could go with things.
Yep.
So obviously you could be a fighter. You could be a fighter, like content creator.
Mm-hmm.
You could go into the journalism and promotion side of things. You could be support staff or a trainer now. There's a decent amount of Thai, like foreign Muay Thai trainers out here, boxing coaches, pad holders like PK Sanchai has Felipe, Superbon has a freelance boxing guy. At Silk Muay Thai, there's our friend Ali.
Yeah, Ali. Yep.
Phuket Fight Club has a handful of Brazilians like Leo, Renan, and others. Then, there's a lot. So I would say, and then I wouldn't necessarily say you can be a judge out here, but internationally you can. Or actually you can, because there's people like Ricky Sewell, who is basically a full-time judge and referee for ONE Lumpinee. So there's a lot of options.
But that would depend on the promotion as well.
Yeah, that would.
I mean, you couldn't directly go and be a judge or a referee at say, one of the more traditional stadium shows because of the SAT, but you could certainly get your feet wet on ONE Championship, or maybe like a special soft power event or something like that with the WBC.
Yeah, correct. So there's a lot of different pathways, and these different pathways are good for different people and at different points of their lives. If you're young, I'd be like, just be an athlete for as long as you can, rack up the experience, get as many fights as you can. Okay, you're 30 plus now. Let's look at some of the other career opportunities: gym owner, trainer, media content person, referee, ambassador, and more.
Now, just going back to athlete pathways, one of the things that we're seeing about the ecosystem now is, the division between entertainment Muay Thai and stadium Muay Thai. And do you think is there still room for someone who wants to just be a stadium fighter in the 5-round circuit, or do you have to think bigger these days, especially if you want to make money?
I mean, if you want to make money, I think you need some sort of other stream of income besides your fight purse. If you're fighting on the stadium scene, you absolutely need some other source of revenue, or and that could include like betting on yourself all the time, which may or may not work out for you. There are still stadium style shows. Like Sorsamai does Palang Mai on Wednesday nights at Raja Demnoon. It's a stadium show, especially the first 4 fights. But there's not as many. And access to them is going to be hard for foreign fighters.
Yeah. Can you tell us why that would be? Why the access might be a little bit harder for foreigners just to go and chuck their name in a bucket to get on those shows?
Well, I think it's a couple different things. One, the promoters are still very Thai. 2, they need to have even matchups because the stadium side of things is geared towards the gamblers. And generally, the gamblers want fights that they can bet on. So the matchups need to be very close, which is very good. For the entertain, it makes for a more entertaining fight. But in order for it to be close, the fighter needs to have fought a lot, and the gamblers and matchmakers need to know them deeply in order to match them correctly. In terms of weight, in terms of skill, in terms of like style clash up. Like Joe, you've been out here for a long time. You're a Muay Thai fighter versus, say me, I'm another Muay Thai fighter. We both have the same amount of experience, but everyone knows you have like a slightly stronger clinch. So it's not going to be as an exciting matchup as, Joe versus Beer, who is not a Muay Thai fighter. So all these things are sort of considered.
Do you think, just going into kind of the business side of it, I mean, and this applies to athletes and just generally anyone who's in the world of Muay Thai, do you think it's become easier or harder to make a real living in Muay Thai in 2025? And when I talk like a real living, I'm talking about paying your bills, being able to sustain, living, not a life of luxury, but at least to exist.
I mean, what do you think?
I think it's still hard. I think you still have to hustle a fair bit. I think especially for athletes, I don't think the purse sizes are quite sustainable here in Thailand. A lot of the Thai fighters are still relying on living in their camps. I think they're a little bit better and they're increasing in terms of being able to save a bit more. Like I talk to a few fighters from ONE Championship, and they're really relying on those bonuses, because one injury, especially in the smaller gloves, it can set them back for a couple of months, and then they've got to pay for hospital fees. And you and I both know that hospital fees, if you don't have insurance, can be quite expensive.
I mean, I would agree. I think it's easier now than ever, but that doesn't mean it's easy. The sport traditionally does not have a lot of money in it.
Yep.
However, there is an increasing amount of money, and if you're clever, if you're smart, if you work hard, and if you have a bit of luck on your side, you can make a decent living. I would also say that the rates out here are increasing faster than inflation and faster than expenses in the Western world. So your quality of life out here in Thailand is better than in the West, which is, very good. I mean, and there's also, for me, I look at real life examples, someone like you, who you basically started in the content creation world 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and now you have a pretty regular, steady source of side income that is equitable to a decent Thai salary. And someone like Doug Malagone also, quit fighting, moved into doing commentating and other stuff within 6 months. Of course, he had both of you guys right connections, right place, right timing, blah, blah, blah.
Good looks.
But, it also shows like there's opportunity.
Yep.
And there's an increasing amount of long-term foreigners out here that are making it sustainable.
Does the book give specific advice for people looking to do that?
Yes. There are some clear avenues for people to look down, in terms of doing seminars, jobs like modeling, or getting into reporting, things like that. I think it could be fleshed out a little more, but the resources are there.
To be looked into in volume 2.
Yeah, in volume 2.
Volume 2. Just looking at kind of the business section of the book, how can a fighter transition from fighting into a sustainable career? So revisiting some of those ideas, seminars or journalists, but for fighters, one of the things that you and I and a lot of other people talk about is you need to think about when the fighting is done, when you hang up the gloves, what to do next? What are some avenues that people can look into after the career is done?
Well, I would say first off, it's easiest if you start planning now. And planning now looks like just documenting, just marketing yourself now. Creating media about your journey is marketing. So if you have that base already behind you, the future is a lot more open. So you look at someone like Liam Harrison, he has documented his journey more or less. I'm not a massive fan of her, but very viable business model. Sylvie Van Douglas just documents her experience. And because of that, they have a lot of opportunities. So when you have that base of content, of experience behind you that is public, like you have shown your work, you're going to be able to transition into doing seminars, into coaching, into consulting roles a lot easier. So that, yeah. Do you feel that answered your question?
Yep, absolutely. I thought that was a really good answer. I thought, but what I am going to do is I'm going to bring it around for a little bit of a hot topic question here. Now, the book is based on your experiences in Thailand and other fighters' experiences in Thailand, and we've seen massive changes in the sport. I mean, the book goes into this quite a lot about, the transition from traditional Muay Thai and the impact of the gamblers, how COVID changed the structure of Muay Thai and how we see it now, I suppose, in the new era of Muay Thai. But my big question is do you think, and I think this as well, that the Thai talent pool has been diminishing over, I would say probably over the last sort of 8 years. I don't think just because of COVID, but I think because of a couple of different reasons. Why do you think this could be, or do you think that at all?
I think I'm mixed. I'm not sure I agree with you. I'm not sure I disagree. I definitely understand that argument.
Yep.
I think that there are, fighting Muay Thai is not easy. So you have to have a lot of intrinsic motivation. Even if your intrinsic motivation is money, providing for your family, you're going to get injured. You're going to have hardships. It's not easy. So getting over that hump to get to an elite level is very difficult for anyone. And a lot of the Thais do not have the same resources. So obviously strength and conditioning becoming a much bigger facet of the fight game, especially in entertainment shows where you're 3 rounds, you can just fucking outmuscle someone.
Which you talk about in the book as well, yeah.
This has been a classic issue with foreigners versus Thais, and we're seeing it even more now. Same thing with nutrition. And, a lot of the foreign fighters treat their nutritionists like they're, therapists and extra support system, which is, is its own thing. But, having the right fuel for your race car is going to help you drive a lot faster. So I think that is an issue. I think the grassroots Muay Thai is still here.
Yep.
It's still very important. It's still a thing. It's still going on. The sort of grading up, the pyramid up for the Thais is not as clear now. Or there's so many other opportunities. So once you say you become like a decent level fighter, you now have the opportunity to go to Australia and make more money. So whereas you might have pushed harder to break through to get into the elite level, now you might say, pushing through is going to be too hard. to maybe get to the top, going to Australia and becoming a trainer is more of a sure thing. So financially, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, because one of the arguments I have heard is that some people think that part of the reason that just hypothetically, that the Thai talent pool has been diminishing is because that so many of the high quality trainers have been going overseas, and that there's no instilling of the old school curriculum in the Thais, and not maintaining the same level of fighting.
I would not necessarily disagree with that. There's a little bit, you could say there's a brain drain. Because the opportunities are more internationally, but Thailand will always be the home of Muay Thai.
Yep.
For a variety of reasons. The cost of labor, the promotions, the infrastructure, the amount of fighters, amount of fights, blah, blah, blah. So while you could say, there will be, less Thai fighters, I think it's always going to be a thing.
Now, moving beyond that, because these are just FAQs from the fans, like mutual friends of ours, I was asking yesterday, I got Matt on, are there any questions you want to ask? And I can imagine you probably already know who's asked some of these questions, but we're moving into what's addressed in the book is the future of Muay Thai, and, we discussed that a little bit in that last question about the transition of Muay Thai especially over the last 5 years. It's been crazy. It's an absolute explosion globally, especially with the SAT soft power initiatives, the WBC, all the great work that they're doing.
ONE RWS.
Yeah, RWS. So what do you use? And I often ask this from people who come on this hit podcast that does so well in terms of metrics. What do you see happening in the sport for the next 5 years? If you were to rub your crystal ball and look into it, what do you see happening for the next 5 years?
I think at least for the next 2 to 3 years, the sport will continue to grow. The RWS is a economically viable product, and it is international. ONE Championship is bringing the sport to the world. Is it economically viable? Chatri might say one thing, a lot of other people might say something else, but regardless, it's pushing the sport internationally, and I think that they will last at least a year. Other initiatives like the SAT soft power stuff, at least 1 or 2 more years. So I see a rise in the sport for another maybe 2 years at least, then a potential plateau while things get figured out. Okay, what's the next step? What's going to happen? We're missing these parts, this and that. Maybe, ONE Championship goes under, so all the fighters have to figure out what they're going to do, or maybe it survives or it changes. I definitely see RWS being very sustainable and going on, but they're, in the next 1 to 2 years, they're going to be like, how can we scale this? We can pack the stadium every night, but how can we scale this is going to be their next question. So I shortly, next 2 years or so, definite rise, potential plateau after that until, the sport pushes through the next set of problems.
Do you think that the North American market is going to have a huge impact on whether it rises or plateaus?
I think that's a leading question because I think you know the answer.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. 100% yes. So this is something, Tim Sitsong Pinong, I just met with him the other day. He was like, the Americans, the best market, my personal experience working in Australia, in England, and in America, the Americans are the best market. So what needs to happen is the bridge from Thailand to North America, specifically America, needs to be built and structured because Americans spend their money the easiest and feel the best about it. So, for instance, I'll just tell you, I've sold like 30 copies of the book so far. 20 something of them are from North America. This podcast more geared towards Australians. Is that right?
Actually, fair few of the viewers and listeners are from the
America,
United States and Canada. So, yeah. So
that's good.
Yep.
I mean, in my experience, the American market is the best. So what is happening right now is there's going to be a decent amount of like low level shows and programs like the MDL, which Patrick Rivera puts on.
Yep.
Muay Thai League. Then there's a handful of like sort of semi-pro shows like Warriors Cup, No Boundaries, Freedom Fighter, that do a mix of pro and amateur. There's still not quite enough. And then there's starting to be some like legitimate pro shows like Coalition Muay Thai. So it's slowly growing, but I think in the next 2 to 3 years, it will probably break through. And this is something, if ONE Championship was going to be economically sustainable, they need the American market, and they have not been able to hit it. So I think they're trying to go maybe the Japan route, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
I don't know enough. I don't know enough about the Japan market.
Yeah, I don't either.
Been there a couple of times for, with RWS and stuff, and fantastic fans over there, amazing fans. They really support combat sports, but I just don't know enough. Did you
get recognized at all while you were in Japan?
No, not at all.
I mean, but I'm sure someone like Michael Chiavello, when he's in Japan, people will be like, "Oh, konnichiwa," I don't know, whatever. They're like, say something to him.
Yeah, your Thai is much better than your Japanese.
Yeah, much better.
I'll give you that much. Now, I've read it. Can I give you my thoughts?
Yeah, sure.
From what I've read, I've only had a couple of days to have a quick skim over it. Really valuable. I think it's a really valuable resource for fighters looking to come over here long term. I think it gives a lot of good advice about career trajectory, what to expect from the culture of the gyms, and I think that's a really big part of athletes coming over here. People tend to forget that Thai society in general is a very conservative society. So you really need to adapt yourself to Thai society. There's nothing wrong with going and having a little bit of a party, but don't bring that persona back to the gym. And generally around other Thais, if you're meeting the matchmaker or the promoter, don't do that. Very valuable. I think we're kind of being, I'm looking for the word, my brain's not working quite right now, but we're being drenched in online resources and, as you said, shallow content. And I think this is content of substance in the world of Muay Thai. Certainly need to get your hands on it if you are serious about making the move over here. And I'm not just saying that because we've worked together and known each other so long. I wish when I wanted to come over here that I had my hands on something like this. Even when I made the move over here, not with the intention to fight, but even as a resource about living here and being involved in Muay Thai, certainly valuable in sense of that as well. If you're involved in the community, very valuable insights from personal stories like Danny Rodriguez, of course, our friend Willie Whipple. I would give it a 5 out of 5. I mean, you're an incredible rider as well.
Thank you.
That's your
Yeah,
background.
that's
Your background is riding. You've always been very good at riding, and I think the one thing I would say that I really do like about it is the Pasa Muay. You know, I think, and explaining what the words mean.
Were there any words or phrases that you picked up that you liked a lot?
I think the explanation of Sian Muay in there, because the first time I heard it was on the Hurts Like Hell documentary, and then it was kind of like explanation, but that was good in there.
Yeah. For those of you out there in TV podcast land, Sian Muay are the Muay Thai experts or gurus. Usually they're the people that know the most about the fighters, and they're connected to the gamblers. And so they will pass information to the gamblers about, oh, this fighter has been doing this, X, Y, and Z. Their form has been, 1, 2, 3. So they're giving the information out to the gamblers and or might be gamblers themselves. And they're just massive nerds about the sport.
Absolutely. And who do you think this book benefits the most? Like beginners, intermediate, experts, business people? So
I would say beginners, no. I would say intermediate to business is the demographic. So it's going to be very good for gym owners in the West who have maybe not been to Thailand in a while or are not coming over regularly. Pinky, who has a gym in Adelaide. Thank you. Liked it a lot. He comes over here all the time. So him liking it is a good sign for me that it's a valuable resource because he's over here a lot. He has a lot of information about it. I think that it sort of solidifies maybe some of what he has experienced or puts it into words for athletes, of course, of the intermediate to advanced level. So, I was talking to some Sarah from Manel Gym yesterday. She has 30 fights out of Chiang Mai. She's been on the Thai Wasadu tournament, fought on RWS a decent amount. She's an experienced fighter. But she hasn't really hit through in terms of marketing and monetizing. So I think, the business side of this is going to help her a lot. Understanding how to run seminars, how to make money at the sport is going to benefit someone like her a lot.
And how can people get a copy of it?
So right now it is available on Amazon. Amazon.com. So in Australia, the UK, around the world, France, America, of course, just type it in the search bar, Muay Thai, the complete insider's guide to training, fighting, and business. I will probably do a tour soon. Figuring that out in North America in late August and into September. I'm lucky enough to be commentating on Coalition Muay Thai.
Cool.
So I'm being flown out for that. So I'll do a tour as well, sort of a book tour, seminar tour, that's going to go over how to win fights and how to market yourself. So the two sort of areas that I think are most important for fighters to know.
Excellent. Well, look forward to that. So if you're in North America, definitely go check out the book tour and the seminar tour. Some very valuable information, would you rather, in this fantastic resource that you can get online. And of course, I will put the link in bio, as often podcasters do. But yes. And can you give us a price point for it?
Yeah, so it is $50.
Okay, excellent. I mean, I think that's worth it.
Yeah, I think it's
invaluable knowledge. I mean, people deserve to be paid for their hard work, and certainly he's put a lot of work into this. I mean, I've seen you chipping away at it over the last couple of years, and I remember you were devastated when you lost all the information from the last one.
Yeah, I got maybe a third of the way through, and then I accidentally deleted the file like an idiot. Yeah. So I had to rewrite it. And, you know, if you want something done, that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you got to put in the hard work, and he certainly has. So, ladies and gentlemen, where can people find you also?
So I'm most active on Instagram, Matt Lucas Muay Thai. I have a website, matt-lucas.com. I have TikTok too. And then, YouTube as well, Matt Lucas Muay Thai.
Okay, excellent. So go and chuck the man a follow. Go get a copy of his book. You can see him on the book tour. He'll be giving out signed copies on the book tour, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. And he'll even write you a personal love note if you request it. And this is Chok Muay Chats, episode 40. Thank you for joining us for a very, very insightful episode on the Muay Thai, the Complete Insider's Guide to Training, Fighting, and Business by yours truly, Matt Lucas. I'm Joe Comerford, and we are over and out. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe.